This is the 19th Tee podcast. Kieran Marsh and Nathan Drudy back with you for another week. And Drewster, we're doing it this week thanks to our great friends at Cobra Puma.
Yes, always thanks to our good friends at Cobra Puma who have been the real OGs of supporters, KM. They really have. And, of course, I've got a great read here for their Pro Adapt Alpha Cats. Now, you've got them already, I believe, on the feet. You told me a couple of weeks ago that they were unbelievable and mine are in the mail. So the Pro Adapt Alpha Cat, it's the king of comfort, and I'm sure that you can vouch for this, KM. They are extremely, extremely comfortable, and they are extremely well priced as well for a golf shoe. So make sure that you get into all good and some bad retailers. Try them on, head online. You can follow all our friends on social media and hit the guys up at Puma for a pair of the Pro Adapt Alpha Cats. They are exceptionally comfortable. They will keep your feet cushioned for all 18 holes. If you're playing 36 like Marshy a couple of weeks ago, they'll do that as well. So make sure you get a pair of the Pro Adapt Alpha Cats on your feet, KM, and I guarantee that you will be the comfiest man on the golf course. I'm sure you can vouch for me.
Speaking of comfort, comfortably the best golf shoe I've ever owned. So shout out to our good friend 40 over at Cobra Puma who sorted me out, and the yours are on the way, as you said.
Yes.
They are a phenomenal golf shoe, like walking on a cloud for 18. So would recommend. Drew, it's a plenty to get through this week. We had seasons ending left, right, and centre. Men's European Tour season ended. LPGA Tour season ended. We've got maybe the most anticipated golf swing of the last 12 months appeared on social media. We've got plenty happening here at home as well with a few events over the weekend. But we will, as we start each and every episode, crack open a beer thanks to our great friends at Gage Roads Brewing Company, WA's premier craft brewery, named after the strip of ocean between Rottnest and Fremantle. And rather, Druids, than toast any of our winners this week, I want to propose a toast to a very good friend of this podcast who's celebrating a birthday today, and that is Steph Kyriakou, who just so happens to be right at the pointy end of the race to Costa del Sol, another season that's ending next week on the Ladies European Tour. So we don't just wish Steph a happy birthday, we wish her all the best for the conclusion of the Ladies European Tour coming up this weekend. Drewster, speaking of Europe though, it was the conclusion of the DP World Tour, otherwise known as the Men's European Tour, in Dubai, of all places. Of course, the conclusion of the race to Dubai. And I know this is a point of contention for you because you had your issues with a man who'd made less than a handful of appearances on said tour, leading the race to Dubai, courtesy of his win at the Open Championship. Well, I can't imagine you're any more comfortable given he's won the final event of the year at the Earth Course. Collin Morikawa, a most convincing winner in the end with a remarkable Sunday performance, including 5 birdies in his last 7 holes to secure both the win and the season championship.
It's a disgrace, Marshy. It's nothing short of a disgrace. And I am glad that you said that we weren't, that we didn't toast Collin Morikawa at the top, because I refuse to raise my glass to Collin Morikawa. Not the man, not his golfing ability, just the fact that he is able to go over and win the race to Dubai after playing a total of 3 non-co-sanctioned events, 2 of which he finished T68 and T71. So the guy goes over and wins clearly the Open Championship, co-sanctioned event, wins this event, and that's enough to win the race to Dubai, is it? I mean, I think it's been relatively well spoken about. He was very emotional after it. It clearly meant a lot to him, but I struggle to get excited for Collin Morikawa winning this event when I feel like I was looking at it today, the race to Dubai rankings. Like Morikawa played 10 tournaments, Billy Horschel played 11, Rahm 9, Fitzpatrick 14. Like Matty Fitz, he's the winner.
Well, and he almost won this tournament. Maybe not the race to Dubai, and wouldn't have had he managed to lift the trophy, but he went on an absolute tear at the beginning of his final round, leaked oil there at the end, but Matty Fitzpatrick was certainly making a uses of himself for a period of Sunday. Druids, put your issues with the structure and the format to one side. Can you get excited about the golf that Collin Morikawa played? Because we speak often about what we want to see from a tournament winner on a Sunday. We will get to what we saw from Jin Young Ko at the conclusion of the LPGA season, which was about the most complete Sunday performance you'll watch. But 66 from Collin Morikawa in the fourth round, including, as I said, 5 birdies in his last 7 holes, when he had a bunch of people breathing down his neck. Fitzpatrick was one of them. McIlroy, of all names, was also one of them for a period of time there. It was some pretty impressive golf down the stretch.
Yeah, it was. It was impressive across the whole thing. I mean, I believe that he lost strokes putting again this week, which is bizarre. And again, reaffirms our point of how good he's going to be when he continues to put it all together. His driving wasn't particularly great. It was a very friendly time slot here. I managed to catch a fair bit of this tournament. His iron play is just phenomenal. It really is phenomenal. And, we spoke, I think maybe you or I, or we both agreed that he was the best iron player since Tiger. And I think he's continuing to reaffirm that.
Let me read you something that I stumbled across. One of my favourite follows on golf Twitter, as I've mentioned many times before, Kyle Porter of CBS. In Morikawa's first 60 events as a professional, 2 major victories, 6 overall victories, 4 second-place finishes, 24 top 10s, only 5 missed cuts, $18.5 million earned, first to 2 majors in 8 starts since Bobby Jones, first American to win the race to Dubai, 3-0-1 at the Ryder Cup. That's his record in his first 60 events as a pro. I think he's 24 years of age. This guy, honestly, he could be anything.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, though, is like he could genuinely be we spoke about DJ being probably the best since Tiger, that post-Tiger era. Collin Morikawa's got the opportunity to be the best since Tiger, period, regardless of time frame, right? But golf is a funny game. And while it doesn't look like anything can happen now, we said the same about Dustin Johnson, right? About 18 months ago when he went on that complete tear at the back end of last year. So things are great for Collin Morikawa now, and he's in elite company, as you just alluded to. But things can change very quickly for Collin. And I hope that doesn't happen, because I genuinely like watching him play golf. He's a very interesting guy to watch him pick his way around a golf course, and the swing is, clearly very, very pure. So yeah, he's got a massive future ahead of him if he continues on this current trajectory. I mean, dual major winner already. He's going to be a freakish player.
It's interesting that you draw the Tiger comparison, not because it hasn't been. It's seemingly the only comparison that gets drawn, and I think that's a function primarily of the iron play, but also the prolific success at this age. And it must be said that I just read out his resume. It's incredible. Wouldn't do Tiger's resume at 24's shoelaces up, to be fair.
No.
And we continue to underappreciate how good Tiger was. But it's interesting that you bring it up in the context of watching that back 9. Maybe for the first time, I haven't seen this, to be fair, in his other victories. Maybe a little bit in the Open Championship, certainly not in the PGA, but it was a weird tournament, his first major, being no crowds. There was this resolute focus in him in the last 9 holes of that event overnight, to the point where it was almost a little stone cold killerish, which was always Tiger, right? And that was the epic rivalry between he and Phil. The difference was always Phil just didn't seem to have the level of desire or focus that Tiger had. Phil was always having a laugh, yucking it up with the crowd, and that was never Tiger. It was almost no one else was there. And I saw that in Morikawa today, and I noted him walking up 18, packed galleries, packed stands around the 18th there, people cheering, and he was announced onto the green and literally gave the smallest tip of the hat. It was as if no one else was there. The difference that I see in him was after, right? The flood of emotion that came, the post-round interview, he starts speaking about his grandfather. We never really saw that from Tiger, probably save until his father died. But even then, it was still quite reserved and conservative. And that, to me, he may not be as prolific as the greatest to ever lift the club, but I think he might be a little bit more balanced. And I think that's why he has an ability now to go and win a lot of tournaments in the next, say, 4 to 5 years. We're not going to probably speak about him in the same sentence as Tiger on volume, but this is a guy who I think might be the best since, because he has both. He has the ability to balance himself.
And if he improves his putting, watch out.
Like,
I think that's the one knock that we have on him right now. It's a really interesting comparison to put it between Phil and Tiger, and we've spoken about the rivalry that Hovland and Morikawa have right now, but that's almost the current day Phil and Tiger. But I feel like it is becoming such a bigger disparity between Victor over here and now Collin just continues to pull away here. And that's not saying that Victor's not moving in the right direction, but Collin seems to be taking 3 steps for Victor's 1. And, as evidence over the weekend.
It's interesting. I don't necessarily, I think it's a really good comparison, because I think if you look at it, Victor probably does have a little bit of feel about him.
Yeah.
In terms of similar personality.
The larrikin. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't necessarily know that I'd suggest there's quite the gap in between them, because I'm also cognizant that I feel it was only 4 or 5 weeks ago I was calling him probably the most consistent of his era, him being Hovland. Like, I think it's undoubtable that Morikawa has a higher ceiling. I just think maybe Victor has a lower floor. A higher floor. I think he's more consistent week in, week out. The problem, I think, is that Collin A wins when it matters most. Victor doesn't do that. And Collin is so impressive when he does. He doesn't just scrape through. It's always, you look at the PGA, he did it. The Open was convincing. Today, he grabbed that tournament with 2 hands in the back 9 and made it his own. He applied scoreboard pressure, and others around him, Fitzpatrick, McIlroy, Horsefield, Hansen, even Bobby McIntyre was there for a period of time and had a double, I think, on the 13th or 12th hole today. So people started to wilt around him, and we haven't seen that for a while now. Probably, I would think, since Rory was in his prime, of people getting a little jittery around a guy that hits a bit of a hot run.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I think that probably contributed to Rory's implosion a little bit as well. Obviously, they were paired up together in that final round. So, yeah, definitely take your point.
Let's go to Rory, unless you have anything further on Morikawa's victory, although I would imagine you don't, because you didn't really want to talk about it in the first place.
No, I didn't. Before we get to Rory, can I just do my shot of the week, because we're probably not going to talk about the guy?
Oh, yeah, no, that's a fair point, because Collin hit mine. That's a good point.
Okay, I'll start. Mine was Bobby Mack. He drained, I think it was like a 90 to 100 foot putt on about the 6th hole yesterday, double break, and just perfectly timed it. So I'm going to give him my shot of the week, presented by the brand new Sure Shot Pinlock 6000 series laser rangefinders with their fastest optics yet, enhanced battery life, and improved ergonomic case and internal magnet. The Sure Shot Pinlock 6000 series of laser rangefinders will help you know the distance and play the best shot to get you on the green. What was Collin's?
Yeah, so I think this will be proof again that I haven't quite decided what I want this to be on a weekly basis, whether it's the purely best shot based on ability, or does it take into account environmental factors like context and moment and pressure, because I haven't quite landed. I feel like I chop and change each week. This is definitely more of the latter than the former. So 16th hole, final round, Morikawa sprays his tee shot left fairway bunker. So the tournament's still very much in the balance here. Rory in particular is starting to leak oil, but there's others around. And it's not the best shot you've ever seen, but in the context of the moment, fairway bunker, he still had 100 odd yards to go, and he puts it within 8 feet. Now he goes on and makes that putt to birdie the hole, which was unusual given what you'd flagged around his putting today. But that had the ability, I believe it ended up being a 2-shot swing, that hole, the birdie that he did, and those chasing, dropping a shot either in front or behind him as well. So I just think that moment he had the ability to go to water a little bit. Coming from the bunker, he might have parred, worse off bogeyed, he dropped himself back to the field. Showed to me where he was at in the final round. And again, not the most impressive shot probably across the weekend, but I think in terms of the platform, the most important one, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it was a hell of a shot, given the context. So I like that one. Rory, what's your quick takeaway? I guess clearly imploded. Had I don't know. I likened him to a guy who's gone out to the pub, thought he was fine after having a handful of beers, decided to have a couple of bourbon and cokes, thought he was going absolutely okay, and then just projectile vomited all over the dance floor and got escorted out by security.
So I'm actually buoyed, encouraged by this performance. I've got to tell you, I think you can look at it two ways, and I'm definitely erring on the side of this is a positive. And I'll tell you why. Sure, would it have been better for him to win? Absolutely. However, if you look at the viral photo that's now doing the rounds, that looks like he went full Eric Banner in the Hulk on himself, ripped the shirt. What does that tell you?
It's passion, right? And it's not what we haven't seen it for a while.
Thank you. That's exactly what I take away from that. Is it actually meant something again that he lost?
Yeah.
And that's been absent for so long. And we've referenced this a couple of times now in recent weeks, but it's as if the Ryder Cup was a release of the pressure valve. He rediscovered the flame. And off the back of that, particularly the Sunday singles performance, where, he pulled Xander Schauffele's pants down going out first. Off the back of that, his next tournament was a win at the CJ Cup. And we all got really excited. We said at the time, Dreeds, we drink this Kool-Aid every year. He does this to us. He comes good in the fall. We all get excited about Augusta in April, and he'll shit the bed. But what I've seen here, now, in the week since, there's been a couple of things going on. Of course, there's been a little bit of talk. Has he split with Pete Cowan? Is he back with Pete Cowan? Is he off again with Pete Cowan? He seems to be getting the old band back together. He's going back to a few people he used to work with, rediscovering a little bit of passion. And he didn't execute this week when it mattered, but he was clearly pissed off about it. And I am so encouraged by that. Like, I couldn't have been, as weird as it sounds, happier to see that photo, because finally, I think a little bit of the old Rory might be back.
Yeah, and I think, the benefit for him now is that he doesn't have to play until the new year. He's not playing the Hero World Challenge. He's not playing, I think the QBS Shootout is in the next couple of weeks. European Tour is finished. So he's not playing until Hawaii next year. So the disappointment of really what was the final 6 holes, really, of the tournament is going to burn with him for the next 6.5 weeks until Hawaii, right? So he, not that we know the guy personally at all, but what we know of him is he's going to go out and absolutely bust a full valve to fix whatever happened in those final 6 holes, right? So come January, watch out, I think. I think he's a red hot chance to win in January or February, March, come April. I mean, we can only dream, right? But I think I think he went full Jason Kokrak all in here on this tournament and played all his chips, spent all his petrol tickets on this one, and was hoping to win this so bad. And he was in contention for so long, and to have it pulled away by a complete beastie was, I think that's going to sting for him for quite a while. And the fact that he can't, resolve that issue for another 6 weeks, I think that's just going to lead to a more hungry Rory come early 2022.
Couldn't agree more. And as I said, I couldn't have been happier to see that photo. Really buoyed by the performance and more so by the reaction to the loss. So we say that, and he finished 5 shots back with a really leaky last 6 holes, and that was the difference. Showed again that his best golf is enough to match it with the best in the world at Patches of this weekend. So really, really good to see. A couple more names here to mention. Ian Poulter, a resurgent 67 Sunday.
And Saturday.
Saturday. He finishes in a tie for 6th alongside Rory McIlroy and South Africa's Dean Burmester. The reason I mention Ian Poulter, Drews, other than the fact I do like him, is that his performance Saturday, Sunday, and his ability to leapfrog into a tie for 6th is subsequently bad news for Australia's Minwoo Lee.
Yes, I did
because
see this.
Ian Poulter has, as a result of his tie 6 finish, jumped into 50th spot in the world. Minwoo Lee entered this tournament in 51st. He leaves this tournament in 51st in the world golf rankings, and therefore may have to wait a little bit longer and perform a little bit better to secure that top 50 ranking and the fruits that come with it.
Yes. Yeah, I did see that stat. Felt a bit sorry for Minwoo. My man Adri Arnaus finished in a tie for 9th alongside a host of other players. Opened with a 75 and then went 68, 68, 66. And the only other one I did want to mention just before we touch on the Aussies was Sam Horsefield, who played a ripping 3 days, 68, 66, 69, but then, fell out the back door to finish T9 with a 74. He's a really exciting young talent, I think, for England. I don't think he's going to be a future Ryder Cupper or anything like that, but he's going to be a very good European Tour player. Looks a hell of a lot like Hayden Barron from over here in WA. There was a bit of doppelganger about that, but just wanted to shout out Sam Horsefield, and then KM, you can whip us through the Aussies.
So we mentioned Minwoo Lee's name. He finishes at 9 under in a tie for 16th. One shot further back is both Lucas Herbert and Jason Scrivener at 8 under in the tie for 21st. And that makes up the Australians who contested the final event of the season. That's the men's European Tour conclusion. We also concluded the LPGA Tour, Drews. Jin Young Ko is on, I believe, what the kids call a tear, Druids. Phenomenal golf, like otherworldly golf.
Yeah.
From Jin Young Ko. Not just across this weekend, which we'll get to some specifics, but the run that she's on in her last, 9 or 10 tournaments, she, as a result of this victory, did enough to secure the LPGA's Player of the Year, which is a points-based system, unlike the PGA Tour. So she just etched out Nelly Korda in the LPGA Player of the Year, Jin Young Ko, but a phenomenal golfing performance across this weekend specifically. But, the last probably 3 or 4 months has been like unicorn type stuff.
3, 4, 5 wins in her last 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, I've got
9 starts.
Let me run you through this. So this is courtesy of Justin Ray. Last 9 LPGA starts, 5 wins, 4 how's this? 4 rounds in the 70s. So she's had 29 in the 60s in her last 9 starts. 11 of those rounds were bogey-free, a scoring average of 67.4 and 87.8% of greens in regulation in her last 9 starts. I don't know if you saw the stat, Drudes,
yes.
That this week alone, she hit 63 consecutive greens in regulation.
That is...
like 63. She hasn't missed a green since the midway through the second 9 on Thursday.
Like, honestly, that is dead set fucked.
True.
I heard that stat today because I must admit I didn't catch a lot of the LPGA over the weekend, but that is unbelievable. And you look at her scorecard today, bogey free, made 6 birdies on the front 9 and 3 on the back. to fire a 63. Like that is some ball striking. We're talking about Collin Morikawa being a good iron player. Jesus, Jin Young Ko could be nudging Collin Morikawa for that title at the moment.
So here's a few more. This is courtesy of Ewan Porter, also a good friend of the podcast. 25 of her last 26 rounds have been in the 60s. Phenomenal. She 16 rounds of 66 or better in 2021. And since joining the LPGA Tour in 2018, of 69 events played, she's made 67 cuts.
Yeah.
Like, Druids,
Insane.
That is beyond a joke.
Yeah. Like, it's not fair at this point. Like, yeah, it's truly remarkable. And you look at, I mean, more broadly, and I don't want to get into this too deeply, but just as an overarching comment, the strength of the LPGA right now is truly phenomenal. When we look at the PGA Tour and we probably think of genuine contenders at each tournament, if we were to have the top 20 in the world, even probably numbers 10 through to 20 at times are maybe lesser factors at some of these tournaments. You look at the LPGA, like it's just not the case. Turning up to a field with, over 100 players this week, genuinely probably 40% of the field was in contention this week up until sort of Jin Young Ko and Nasa Hatoka sort of pulled away over the weekend. Like it's in a phenomenal place right now, the LPGA, and people definitely need to tune in and I guess start to watch if you're not already watching and keep watching if you are watching.
Well, crazy. You look at the leaderboard. Celine Boutier goes 65 Thursday, Friday. She's finished 5 shots off the winner.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's in a tie for third.
Yeah.
Like that's incredible. Some of the golf that's being played, and we've said this countless times as well. Jin Young Ko comes from the incredible nursery that is South Korea for women's golf. But yeah, she is in another sphere at present. She's playing chess. We're playing checkers, mate. That's particularly you and I. We haven't even opened the box, but a phenomenal performance from Jin Young Ko. Just quickly, thoughts on, and I like it. I want to preface this. I like the way the LPGA does the Player of the Year as opposed to other tours with the points-based system. Thoughts on Jin Young Ko edging out Nelly Korda based on this. So Jin Young Ko's year, 5 wins, no majors, 13 top 10s, scoring average of 68.8. Nelly Korda, 4 wins, including a major, and in addition, the Olympic gold medal, which is not counted as obviously a major or in points for the year, 10 top 10s and a scoring average of 68.7. So you'd struggle to go back in the archives and find a closer year between two players. Jin Young Ko literally had to win this week to win, and she did everything that was asked of her. I don't have a problem with the result because I think probably on balance, she's done more across the course of the year, albeit she had 2 more starts in the year than Nelly did. But it probably wasn't built with this in mind. You'd have something this close.
No, and it is unfortunate for Nelly, but I'm completely comfortable with that. And the fact that it's not the fact that it's based on points is like, it's hard to argue with, right? Like, the PGA Tour is very subjective as to, it's a committee of people deciding who it's going to be. Yeah, exactly. So, it's very difficult to argue with, and I'm completely in support of Jin Young Ko being the Player of the Year, undoubtedly. So
it was a really good weekend, Druids, for the Australian women. So bearing in mind, this is the end of year LPGA Tour Championship. This is the best of the best. So Minjee Lee finishes in a tie for 5th. She finished alongside Nelly Korda and Megan Kang at 17 under. We had also Hannah Green at 13 under in a tie for 15th, and Sue O in a tie for 28th at 9 under. So Minjee Lee, the 4 under there, she's had a great year. She, of course, won a major championship. We had the question a couple of weeks ago, Drudes, on the first video episode, who is our next Australian major winner? And I said it's either Minjee Lee or Cam Smith. And the only reason I would err towards Cam Smith is the pure depth on the LPGA Tour. But Minjee Lee's had an exceptional year, winning the major and finishing tied for 5th in the last tournament of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. No, she's been a superstar of Australian golf and really flown the flag for us. And I look forward to 2022 already with what she's got in store. And that depth you talk about is certainly going to be there for a long time, KM. So looking forward to LPGA next year already.
And just finally on results overseas, Drudes, the PGA Tour, we'll put our hand up and say neither of us watched very much of this.
I did not watch one hole of this.
The RSM Classic at the Sea Island Golf Club. Pretty bloody hard to get excited when you've got both the season-ending championships of both the Men's European Tour and the LPGA to give really two shits about this tournament. Yep. However, it was a maiden victory for Taylor Gooch on the PGA Tour, a bit of a journeyman. I think he's had over 100 starts, Taylor Gooch, for his first victory. Names worth mentioning: Cameron Smith finished his season in a tie for 4th, 7 shots back. And as I'm scrolling down, Adam Scott was in a tie for 37th at 7 under. And we continue to go down. Jason Day missed the cut, Drudes, as did Matty Jones.
Cam Davis missed.
Jeez, it was a deep field. And Brett Druitt
missed as well,
obviously just receiving his Korn Ferry Tour card recently, Brett Druitt, and he's getting a start there at the RSM. One to mention there, I saw this courtesy of our good mate Benny Everell. Jason Day drops out of the top 100 in the world for the first time since 2010, off the back of missing the cut this week. And speaking of world rankings, a name I did want to flag, Seamus Power. Keep an eye on this kid. Tie for 4th this week. The young Irishman, he has gone through the proverbial roof in the last probably 6 to 8 months in the OWGRs, is flying. So just keep an eye on him. Irish golf, and I want to be clear, I kind of separate Rory from the discussion of Irish golf because he's obviously one of the best to ever do it, but going through a little bit of a resurgence at the moment. We've come off the golden era of your Harringtons, your Clarks, your McDowells, kind of, late 90s, early 2000s. That was a real purple patch for Irish golf. Now we went through a bit of a lull. Laurie really carried the can. Obviously, Shane Lowry wins the Open Championship a few years ago, but at the moment, you've got Leona Maguire doing phenomenal things on the LPGA. And young Seamus Power is starting to make some waves on the PGA Tour. So one for the Black Book.
He did win recently. Yeah.
One for the Black Book for next year, Drudes, in racing parlance.
Shout out Tyler McCumber as well, was on 59 watch for a long time today, and then just couldn't get it done. He did have a wedge in, but couldn't make it stick and ended up with a 60. But handy day for Tyler McCumber.
Before we turn our attention closer to home, Drudes, I think you got a word there from our good friends at the Golf Collective.
Yes. Now, our good friends at the Golf Collective, they have been wonderful supporters of this podcast since midway through this year as well. And we are encouraging everyone, now that the weather's heating back up, things are getting a little bit nicer, we're able to get back out and I guess play golf, in nice weather and not worry about rain, although it was meant to rain yesterday as I was playing yesterday. But we want everyone to get on board and get a handicap now. This doesn't mean you have to play in club competitions. It means you can just chill out. You can play against your mate who's a 3 handicapper, play Stableford, beat him for a beer afterwards. So using our code 19th 19THTEE, that'll get you $19 off your annual subscription, which means it's $110 to get a fully managed handicap. All you do is you just send it off to the guys at the Golf Collective. They'll sort it all out for you. They send us a little bit of money because that's how sponsorship works on a podcast, and everyone stays happy. You keep hearing us dribble a bit of stuff about the PGA Tour and the Euro Tour and the LPGA and all of that. So head to the Golf Collective website, head in and make sure you put that code in, and you'll get a very cheap managed handicap KM.
Super easy. I've got a card here to submit. I played Capera here in Brisbane just the other day. Had an all right round, 5 pars and a birdie, which is not bad for me.
What'd you shoot?
Capera. Yeah, leaked a few, say in the 90s, Drews, but breaking 100 for me around Capera is a pretty good effort, to be fair.
Yeah, my game at the moment has never been in a worse position. And I don't say that very lightly. I am genuinely struggling.
You're in the wilderness.
With the driver. I just cannot get the driver to work for me at all. I played yesterday and I teed off with a 5-iron all day and had a 92. So I was like, mate, this is way easier. This is way easier than trying to hit a driver. So yeah, worked well. So we'll see how it goes Wednesday morning, having a little hit before work. My 9-hole card as well, which you can do with the Golf Collective. So
let's turn our attention to home, Drews. There's been a couple of events here over the weekend. First and foremost, our good friends at Blitz Golf got the season underway, Drews.
They did down at How Long, and fantastic to see a good friend of the podcast, Daniel Gale, taking the win. Gailey, as we know, he's been working incredibly hard on his golf game. If anyone follows him on Instagram, they'll know how hard he's been working on his golf game. Also in the gym, he's been absolutely pumping the irons. So great to see Gailey get the victory. A pretty decent field as well. Bryden McPherson in there, Zach Murray, Matthew Miller, Matthew Griffin, a lot of friends of the show, Brett Rankin. Really, really great to see a number of friends of the podcast and broader friends of golf in there as well. So congrats to Gailey for winning that, and shout out to Blitz Golf and Simon for the work that they've done. They've obviously they're reliant on the PGA Tour of Australasia being set in so that they can run their events around them, but they are on a trajectory for some really, really exciting things, Blitz Golf, and we're obviously proud to be partners with them. And we're not just saying that because we are partners, it's because we genuinely believe in the product. And I'm sure, Marshy, as we were talking about the other day, listening to the PGL discussion on no laying up, it makes you think about Australian golf, and Blitz is genuinely the future of golf in this country in many ways. So massive shout out to Simon. I know that he'll be tuning in and listening. So congrats to Simon on getting the Blitz Golf League off the ground down there in How Long.
If you don't know much about it, look into it, because there's these premier events that are giving opportunities back to the very people who have been starved of them, and it's great to see all those names that you read out. I'm sure if you bailed him up, Gailey would be able to recall every single shot that he hit across the weekend towards his victory.
Yeah, he would.
But it also engages people just like you and me, Druids, in competitions, which I think is the great leveler. And when they hit the trajectory that you're speaking about, it will be in spite of the governing bodies, not because of them, because they have been railroaded at every stop so far, and it would not hurt maybe the slightest bit of vision to join forces with them rather than fight them. But anyway, that'll be about as political as we get tonight, because they're doing wonderful things at Blitz Golf, and they don't deserve this to go off the rails into an angry, heated discussion.
No. And as you said, you can play in the amateur tournaments that do come around in the Pro-Am tournaments, but you do need a handicap. And fortunately, we've got a solution for that with the Golf Collective. So
we are a literal one-stop shop. You want a beer, go to Gauge Roads. You want some clubs or a couple of shirts, go to Cobra PM. You want a handicap, go to the Golf Collective. You want to play in a tournament, go see Blitz. You don't need anything else.
Want a rangefinder that you can use in that tournament? Go see Sure Shot.
You want to watch
sunglasses? We got it all.
Locally. Everything. One-stop shop.
Also happening over the weekend was the 64th Border Open Pro-Am, $25,000 up for grabs, and that was won by Tim Hart with back-to-back 64s to shoot 18 under through 2 rounds, which is two hell of a rounds of golf for Tim Hart there. So massive props to Tim for a really, really classy performance over those 2 days at the Border Open Pro-Am. In a good field, finishing in third place was Elvis Smiley. Matthew Miller was in fourth alongside Bryden McPherson and Brady Watt. Matthew Griffin rounding out the top 10. Daniel Gale, all of these guys were in the field. Brett Rankin again. So obviously this doubled in nicely into Blitz Golf. But great to see. Obviously, Pro-Ams continuing. We haven't massively covered them this year because the prize funds up for grabs isn't particularly enough for players to really bide their way around the tour. But we thought we'd shout out the Border Open Pro-Am as the season gets close to the PGA Tour of Australasia kicking off in early December. So shout out Tim Hart.
Irony's not lost on me either in the name Border Open at present, which is good. I'm sure everyone's having a laugh. Drew, so just finally, before we wrap up, and this potentially should have led the show. Okay. And also potentially could have won the short shot of the week. And that was any of the practice swings that Tiger Woods took on the range today when he posted a video of what appears to be some fairly significant progress in his recovery. The caption was quite literally making progress, which is good. Tiger's always been a man that's, brevity is the key, Drew. Why say 50 words when you can say 5?
Yeah.
That's Tiger's modus operandi. But I think there's probably a couple of things to take out of this. First and foremost for me, aspirational divot path.
Yeah.
Like unbelievable. The guy has literally been holed up on his backside for months and he comes out and he look at the divot path. Phenomenal.
Stunning.
Secondly, if this is as good as it gets, that's also amazing, given what he's been through. And I think that it's a little bit unfortunate that I think people will take this to the nth degree. They'll see a video of him hitting a couple of, 56-degree wedges, and we'll see markets start to open up for the Open Championship next year, and Tiger will have a line item in there. So I hope, although I don't have any great optimism, that we'll keep a lid on it, because I think if he gets back in any way, shape, or form to meaningful competitive golf, that would be a true miracle.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, I woke up to that video today and seeing the comments on Instagram that were, win number 83 incoming in 2022. And, that's just so pie in the sky thinking, right? Like it's just, this is a guy, as you say, who's been holed up, coming out and just gently hitting shots. And he was flushing them too, by the way. Yeah. We shouldn't leave that out. And to your point, I agree. If this is as good as it gets, I'm okay with that. I'm not expecting him to get back out on the golf course because, it's very different from standing on the range to going and walking holes, one hole as opposed to 72 holes of competitive golf to get to win number 83. I just don't know why we put ourselves in that situation. And, he's a competitive beast. We don't know the guy, but we know enough about him that he is incredibly competitive and he probably will want to get back out there. And if he does sail off into the sunset with a handful of missed cuts and then decides that, this is it, so be it. I don't think that we should put ourselves under any sort of false illusions that this is the resurgence of Tiger, because it's not what we saw 2-3 years ago. Right. No. Like, I just think it's completely different. I mean, I still want to know, I think there's an element of wanting to know what's happened in the past 6 months. I think
very much so. There's what happened in the car. Very much so.
Yeah. And, it's, I don't know that it's, he has to tell us, but he kind of should, I think. I don't know. I was kind of, when I saw that video, I was like, this is interesting because we haven't seen anything he hasn't done, nothing, since the car crash. So I was like, holy shit, he's made a pretty miraculous recovery. He's obviously got the sleeve on the leg. But yeah, those questions just sort of came in and you're just like, there's a big chapter of that story missing that hasn't been addressed. And I don't know if that's right of me to put any sort of pressure on via just my thoughts here.
No, I think you're spot on. And I think it's completely up to him. I think if he decides that that's as good as it gets, then he doesn't owe anyone anything.
No.
But if he
But did he owe us an explanation, do you think?
Well, I think it's entirely up to him. If he puts himself back into a position where he's playing tournament golf and he re-enters that arena, then he has to expect, and I think rightfully so, and I think needs to answer questions that will be asked.
Mm-hmm.
But he may decide, and if that's not the case, and this is what we get drip-fed a couple of videos, and I don't think he owes anyone an explanation. It will be entirely of his own making, because he will either decide to step back into public life or he won't.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's a grey line, Druids. What is and isn't in the public interest, as we've seen in other sports. It's been making headlines the last couple of days. But
yes,
if you are a public figure, then you, I think, are at the whim of questions from the public. But if you aren't, then he can probably live as quietly as he likes. It's really entirely up to Tiger, and it wouldn't surprise me either way if he steps away, or if that innate competitive nature becomes too much and he has to take a bite of the cherry.
Yes, no, I agree with you, KM. What else have you got on the agenda? Because I don't think we've got too much. Obviously, our Black Friday sale has launched.
Yes.
So there is going to be an announcement on Thursday regarding this, but we probably will leave that for Thursday's episode, because we've done an interview with Brad McIntosh, which I'll get you to touch on in a moment. But if you haven't got a shirt or a head cover or a hat or all of the above, please do so, because you'll be supporting a fantastic cause off the back of our Black Friday sales. That's all we'll say. We'll park it for Thursday's episode with Brad McIntosh. Marshy, maybe you can just give us the very quick 10-second pitch.
Yeah, so people who are keen listeners to this podcast will know that of the 170 odd episodes we've done, Dreads, we certainly have enjoyed a handful more than most. And one of those was our chat with Louis Dobler back in February of this year. Louis is a story that we've continued to keep a close eye on, and will, as he no doubt continues to progress. Of course, recently secured status on the the PGA Tour of Latin America, and is doing great things over in the States. But when Louis joined us, he told us about a young man by the name of Josh McIntosh, who was an incredibly important figure at a really seminal moment of Louis' development as a golfer. A mentor, almost an older brother type figure. And unfortunately, Josh lost a battle with an incredibly rare condition, late last year, and that had quite an effect on Louis. And that was one of the really nice parts of the interview that we had with Louis, was Louis talking about Josh. So coming up on Thursday night, we're actually going to be joined by Josh's brother, Brad, as there is a golf day happening at Brookwater, which is where, funnily enough, Louis met Josh, and it was Louis' home track, also Josh's home track. There's a golf day in honour of Josh coming up on Friday, the 3rd of December at Brookwater, that will be raising awareness and funds for the condition that Josh suffered from. I think we'll talk to Brad. It's a fantastic chat. It was really nice of him to join and share some stories about his brother. And we do, as part of that chat, make a bit of an announcement. But I think it would be fair to say, Drew, that if you jump on board and support our Black Friday sale, we won't be holding on to any of the funds that are garnered from the Black Friday sale. So I'd strongly encourage, if you've been holding out, to grab one of the shirts, the hats, maybe a combo, grab one of the good deals that's going in Black Friday, because you'll be doing more than just putting some clothes on your back. You'll be helping a great cause. So looking forward to sharing that one. That'll be out on Thursday.
Yeah, very well said, Kane. Very well said.
Excellent, Drews. That's been fun, as per. And you enjoyed the rest of your week. Enjoy the hit on Wednesday morning. I hope that the driver gets out of the bag. Maybe it won't. We'll see.
Not even taking it.
But I'm sure you'll enjoy just being out there, mate, as I have recently as well. Until Thursday night, everybody, take care of yourselves and stay safe. We'll be back in your ears then.